Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Maha Kalani, who is a palliative care doctor. And we've been talking about seniors and end of life and living situations. We've covered many, many topics.
Absolutely. But, one of the fearful things that people hear the words palliative care, hospice care, and it's not necessarily end-of-life care.
Absolutely not.
It's quality of life, which you're trying to assure it continues to be enhanced for as long as you can have it. But you're director of the palliative care at Holy Cross Hospital, and they have a great program there. Tell our listeners a little bit about, try to allay their fears a little bit about not just being rated, but the possibility of when somebody says palliative care, what should they be thinking?
They should really associate palliative care with whole person care and with quality of life. Those are synonymous, essentially. Palliative care is a medical specialty provided by a team of specialists, physician, nurse, social worker, chaplain, really addressing all the aspects of each individual's needs and making the best of their care experience. So really going back to understanding who the person is and what could possibly make their care better, what are their hopes and fears, and what are their goals and the things that they're looking forward to, and capturing that from every element of care. So it's not just about giving a person a pill because they're experiencing pain, but also making sure that they're not experiencing emotional pain or they're not having psychosocial dilemma of not being able to return home, for instance. There are a lot of our seniors, and I can tell you, I've had seniors who have shared with me their fear of not being able to return home, and that's causing them a lot of angst, and that's what's causing them pain.
Yes, that's right.
And so what we do is we work as a team with our case management and the other medical specialists to try to get those patients back to their home situations, because that's what's important to that individual. And so it's really a collaborative effort, and it's a pleasure. I still can't believe I get paid for this job. So,
but the sad part is patients are being introduced to this idea, concept, and what we're doing now of palliative care and hospice care in a hospital setting, whereas it should be discussed far before one gets into the hospital. How can we, those listeners who are saying, okay, I'm not going to wait. I want to find out a little bit more where that discussion, what that discussion should be about. What are the things that they should be thinking about right now as they're listening to us?
I think that's a really good question. I think one of the things that our seniors can do, and we always, in Providence, we always think of palliative care as a little P and a big P. Big P being specialty palliative care, and little P being the palliative care that's delivered by every single clinician that person experiences, has encounters with. And when a senior goes to his primary care doctor, quite frankly, that primary care doctor can deliver good palliative care by being a good listener, by asking important questions, not just about the disease that they're experiencing, but about who the person is and what's important to them. So what I would encourage our seniors to do is to ask their family physicians or any of their medical specialists about palliative care and what resources are available to them. Now, with our Providence system, we're actually expanding our outpatient services, which is really exciting for our program. They were able to obtain a UniHealth grant, which has hopefully will be sustaining an outpatient presence for the next couple of years.
Wow.
And it's impressive because our patients need more quality of life and whole person care.
Well, it's interesting. How can a doctor present those kinds of things to their patients when the patient's in there for 10 minutes?
Yes.
That's a good, it's a good question, and I think there's issues about communication and how doctors communicate in that 10-minute arena. You can't.
There's no way you can.
But that's why I think the purpose of our show is to bring these facets up that people will be facing beforehand. Because remember that you can hear us talking about it, but if you have access, whether yourself or through your grandkids, to the internet, you can start looking some of these things up, what people are saying about it, the pluses and minuses, and the direction you want your life to go. Now, if you're 90 years old, well, you're getting closer to end of life. If you're 60 years old, you should, though, anticipate beforehand and let family members know where you want to go, what you want to do, but you need to have the information beforehand, and that's harder to get.
Absolutely. And it always just starts off with having a good conversation and letting people within your family or your group of friends know what's important to you. Things in general. It's amazing what we are able to elicit from our family members of our sick patients when we sit down to have conversations about things that are important. But it is truly important to have a conversation with your family about what is important to you. What are things that you're looking forward to? What are your goals? Just like what I shared with my dad, who he said he would not want to be in a nursing facility. And those are the things that we need to honor. Mm-hmm. So we have to brainstorm. We have to figure out how are we going to manage our seniors as they age or as they live with their chronic conditions.
So, when people are admitted to the hospital, they're suffering.
Yeah.
And that's an aspect of what we see as physicians as being a part of life and what we have to deal with. For some reason, people think they're going to go in the hospital and they won't be suffering, and that they'll be okay and things will be fine, and they'll just be laying there and say, take care of my pneumonia and I'm all right. But it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
So one suffers. The question then has to be, to what degree are you going to suffer? And secondly, how far can one put up with the care that is given with the hope that you're going to get somewhere versus your treatment is not going anywhere? So these are the dilemmas. Medical science can keep you alive. That's what we do. We intubate people. We put people on life support. We keep their oxygen level up. We sedate them. We calm things down so people aren't suffering. But are they living life? And how do you? And
that's important. That's an important comment that you just made. Is oftentimes we're just treating numbers. Mm-hmm. We're treating a disease, but we're no longer treating the person.
That's right.
And we need to focus back on person-centered care.
That's very true. And hospitals really want to get you in and get you out. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line.
Right.
I know for a fact that's the case because my sister-in-law was in the hospital, and the doctor who was treating her said, okay, she's ready to go home. Well, she had open sores on her arms that had not healed, and I confronted that doctor. I said, excuse me? You're sending this lady home in the condition she's in? But you see, that doctor was also pressured by that hospital.
Right.
So
Get your patients out.
Right.
And that is grossly unfair, in my opinion.
And we talked earlier about long-term care insurance and the little words and sentences that could change people and get denial of the care. That can happen in a hospital setting where you can have a financial look at the patient as opposed to the medical care of the patient overwhelm the doctors where they're not giving appropriate care or counseling with that discussion. So yes, it bothers me that across the board, I don't want somebody saying, "Oh, that person's suffering, so put them on hospice." Get them, put them on palliative care and send them on their way. We can't allow that to happen. But that's why we're saying right now, have the discussion. Look at the paperwork. Look online. Talk to your family. You're not going to live to 200 years old, let alone, for some might be 100, but most people won't. But if whatever life you're going to live to whatever age you're going to live, you want it to be quality. And at some point, it's your decision to say you're not having quality anymore. Not a hospital administrator, not Medicare, not somebody who has a vested financial interest in your care. We cannot allow that to happen. But to stop that from happening, talk about it early.
Right, and document it.
I mean, that's very important.
Yes.
Very important.
So we should move forward on this when we talk about a Department of Aging here in Santa Clarita. Part of that conversation and discussion should be end-of-life care for our patients. And, it's not just getting a hospital bed or making sure that the medications are there.
Right.
There's you mentioned whole person. Marwa, about how you're treating the whole person. Part of that is that how are you're gonna give a drug because they fear going into a nursing home? No, you're gonna discuss the issue.
Right.
So let's start that discussion at some point.
Well, and it really needs to be started.
And some of the things that we can very easily do is really engage some of our religious communities into that, because there's a big component of spirituality in each person's life, to whatever degree. But that's something that we could very easily do is loop them in, because they've got a stake as well.
They really do. And considering changing the subject slightly, all the homeless people that we have around here and in the LA area surrounded, and there are more and more of them. And many of the churches are stepping up to the plate and helping feed and clothe the homeless. And that's the same kind of, it's the same arena taking care of, but it's in a little different setting, so to speak.
It's like the continuum.
That's right.
Yes.
It is.
Well, the churches, the homeless shelter that we have here would not be here if not for the churches. I think it was 8 churches got together here in Santa Clarita, and there are many more now, but 8 churches were here, and they, with Tim Davis and his organizational skills, getting things out there, I will tell you that it's open 3 months. It's not long enough, and you have components of the population who are saying, no, don't house them, don't do anything. Well, it's getting worse. And we used to feel if seniors were out in the street, we got to get them off right away. Well, now we're seeing too many. We can't stay up with it anymore. But we got to make the hours longer. We have to give those who have the abilities a chance and opportunity to get off the street again. There are too many of them that are our peeps, are the people who we have lived with and broken bread with in the past. And, because they run into a little bit of hard luck, we let them go. And I don't see that. Once again, I'm a social capitalist. And, I feel that, by taking care of others and making sure that they do okay, we all do okay. And not looking at it that way is reprehensible to me.
No.
And it's interesting. I'm going to slightly change the subject, but not really. But the word palliative, where did that word come from, and why is it used palliative?
Yeah,
it's a very confusing word for me.
So it's of Latin origin, and it means to cloak. And it started, I believe, back in maybe medieval times when they used to have almost like palliative homes for patients who, or not patients, but persons who were at their ends of life.
They were probably 20 or 30 years old then.
Probably, yeah.
Well, that's probably true back then.
Because the pictures that I've seen of hospice homes at that time, really the individuals, the caricatures that were drawn into these pictures were all young appearing.
Right.
So, I mean, at different times. It's really interesting.
So it's of Latin origin.
Latin origin to
meaning
cloak.
to cloak. And boy, that covers a big picture, doesn't it?
Yes.
To cloak.
Yes. Yes.
I wonder where
Whoa.
hospice came from, not hospital or hospitality, maybe.
I don't know.
Probably
Well,
along
let's look that up. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hospice.
Hospice. But palliative care.
And, defining the difference between palliative and then hospice has always been troublesome for even doctors.
Yes.
And, I know that, I'm talking about end of life, but end of life doesn't mean, next week.
No.
End of life is 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. But, when you start to feel older, like your glasses the prescription has to change. Like for me, running down a hill and then tripping and falling, then rolling down the hill.
Whoa.
Those are the kind of things that I go, there's a reality here. I'm getting older, and that discussion has to take place.
But
Yes,
in all fairness, I'm a big klutz, and I'm a little younger than you are, Dr. Dorio, and have gone downhill and fallen. So I don't think you have to be a senior to do that.
No, you don't.
But when you've never done it before and you do it, it's a warning sign. I've been warned, and I'll take that warning. And I think a lot of us get that warning. But palliative care, to palliate, we're still, that doesn't mean we've given up. It still means that we're
Absolutely
looking
not.
for alternatives. But, as you get older, the number of things in terms of treatment plans, it just gets less. So, and then at some point in life, there is that point where we can't do really much more for you other than an operation or chemotherapy that's going to actually cause worse suffering. And you have to weigh that. Do you really want that balance or not to go in one direction or another? And when we say no, we're not going to do that, then we're at end of life. And that's where pain, suffering, discomfort, all of it, we look at it and say, we're going to take care of that for you and make sure that none of that happens.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to take another break. And I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. And now we will be going into more breaking news. Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Maha Kalani, who is a palliative care doctor. And we've really covered the gamut, haven't we?
Yeah, beyond palliative care, we've heard about RAIDs today.
That's right.
And the long-term care insurance, and we've just, talked about, I think, everything on the show. And it's obvious that, we have opinions that pretty much come together as to how to take care of our seniors, whether it be in their home or whether it be at end of life. I think these are all important issues that they're facing, and they want to hear us talk about, not only on this show, but also within the community and at City Hall.
Absolutely. And one thing I would like to know, Mara, is how did you get involved in palliative care? And what caused it? What triggered something in you?
I think it was all of the quality time that I had spent with the grandparents in my life.
There you go. Makes a difference.
Yeah,
when you
it sure
have that
did.
Exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about this yesterday. I had a grandfather who, my family's from Egypt. I was born and raised here. So I had grandparents that would come and visit every other year and stay with me for the whole summer.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and it was really a
Wonderful.
beautiful experience. And I mean, it could bring me to tears. So let's talk about my other grandparents. I had a set of adopted grandparents here because I didn't have grandparents with me in the community to help raise me. So our next door neighbors who've passed, Phyllis and Bernie Dishman, they were my adopted grandparents. Now, they very much took on the role as grandparents. They were very serious about it. I was their adopted grandchild, and that really, it gave me a liking towards providing care towards seniors. When I finished medical school, I thought maybe I would do geriatrics, but really got caught up in hospital medicine, and palliative care is really, I think, a nice way of doing more whole person care and taking care of our seniors. So that's kind of why I went into palliative.
Very interesting. Yes, that is. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of children and young adults don't have that occasion to be close to their grandparents.
And, you know, I see here in Santa Clarita so often when I do house calls that the grandkids are there, the great-grandkids are there.
Yes.
They show up. And actually, I went over to your place once, Barb, and there
Yes.
were your
Yeah.
great-grandkids as well.
That's right.
And it's, to me, that kind of exposure, I think, is so important,
Very important.
for one to, when you're young, to be in tune with that, because it really maintains your perspective of life.
It does, and I have something really neat to share. For a birthday present, my last birthday, which was a couple of weeks ago, one of my grandchildren gave me a blanket that had pictures of all 5 of my great-grandchildren on it.
That's beautiful.
And when I saw it, it brought tears to my eyes,
Yes.
because 5 little ones, and it was amazing.
Pretty cool.
2
Yeah.
10-month-old,
Aw.
a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And I look at it every day because I have it on my couch.
Yes.
And I don't sit on my couch anymore.
But the other side of the coin is that if you don't have connections with seniors, you can. You can
Yes,
go
you
to
can.
our senior
Absolutely.
center
Yes.
and help out and, be a part of someone's life. Adopt them. They can adopt you. I mean, it really is kind of fun, isn't it?
Yes,
it
it
to
is.
have that exposure. And we've all, I think, had that. And it's it's a loving relationship. It's a community relationship. It's a learning relationship. And, I think for us all being involved as senior advocates, I think it's been important for us to learn.
Absolutely.
Great. Dr. Maha Kalani, who's the medical director at Providence Holy Cross in palliative care. Great for you to be on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing me back.
It's been wonderful. Thanks so much.
Yes, it's been a great conversation.
We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and In-Home Care Santa Clarita. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.